To begin this presentation, we'll start with an introduction to the topic of critical thinking. We'll then have Claudia discuss what critical thinking is. Myself will be talking about critical thinking and its importance in university study. Natalie will then discuss how students think critically, and we will come together to provide strategies to develop critical thinking. As we begin to dive into the details of critical thinking, it's important to understand why this topic matters. At university, students are no longer expected to simply absorb information. We're expected to engage with it, question it, and apply it in thoughtful ways. This is where critical thinking becomes essential. The aim of this presentation is to explore what critical thinking actually is, why it's considered such a valuable skill in higher education, and how students can build and apply it in everyday study. As we move through the next sections, we'll look at definitions, practical examples, and strategies that can help you strengthen this skill in both academic and real-life contexts.
Critical thinking refers to the process of carefully and deliberately evaluating information in order to make reasoned decisions. It involves not just absorbing information, but using questioning, analyzing, and reflecting. Paul, 1987, accurately defines critical thinking as the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. Moreover, the word critical comes from the Greek term kritikos, meaning to discern or to judge, spotlighting how critical thinking allows students to break down arguments and consider their validity. In short, critical thinking is thinking with purpose and structure. It's about being curious, skeptical, and open-minded all at once, not only learning and memorizing at a surface level, but thinking deeper into the concept or topic.
When you step into higher education, you're no longer just expected to take in information. You're expected to question it, explore it, and build on it. That's where critical thinking comes in. It's not just a skill, but a mindset that helps you engage with learning on a deeper level. Rather than just taking notes and memorizing facts, critical thinking encourages you to ask, why is this important? What's the evidence? Are there other perspectives I should consider? This mindset allows you to go beyond surface level understanding. You learn to analyze, evaluate, and apply ideas in new contexts, turning information into genuine insight. The University of New England puts it clearly. Critical thinking helps students read with purpose, listen with intention, and write with structured logic. These are exactly the skills needed for university tasks like essays, presentations, and discussions. For example, in a research essay, critical thinking helps you do more than repeat what sources say. You begin to question the evidence, consider different viewpoints, and form your own argument backed by reasoning. That's the kind of thinking your tutors are really looking for. It also helps you manage more complex academic tasks. When you can break ideas down, focus on what matters, and assess arguments clearly, you build confidence and become more independent as a learner. This growth goes beyond academics. Students who practice critical thinking are often better at problem solving, more open to new ideas, and more in control of their own learning journey. Universities support this development through frameworks like Bloom's taxonomy, which encourages students to move from basic tasks like remembering and understanding to more advanced thinking, like analyzing, evaluating, and creating. To wrap it all up, critical thinking, it isn't just about study. As Thatcher and Spencer explain, it also helps us handle big life questions and everyday decisions. It's one of the top skills employees look for because it shows you can think logically, reason through problems, and make sound judgments. Overall, critical thinking is what helps you go from getting through university to actually understanding, questioning, and owning your learning and applying it far beyond the classroom.
How do students think critically? UNSW suggests that critical thinkers test what they are told and what they read. This idea reflects the view of Venera Mihaela Kojakaru and Carmen Alina Bonari 2013, who describes critical thinking students as active thinkers in learning. They address questions, seek for relevant answers, explore viable solutions, interpret and analyze data, and evaluate arguments made by others. These perspectives demonstrates that students think critically by actively engaging with information instead of just passively accepting it. This allows them to cultivate deeper and lasting understandings, as well as form their own judgments based on supporting evidence and logical reasoning as independent learners. This also justifies Robert Duron's 2006 proposition that students are incapable of developing understandings without active engagement and reflection on why they are learning what they are learning. At university, students think critically while reading, taking notes, writing assignments, preparing for exams, attending or watching lectures, and participating in tutorials or workshops. For example, when writing an essay, students are required to use academic literature to support their ideas. These sources must be reliable and credible to ensure the validity of an argument. Students may ask themselves, is this journal article peer reviewed? To check whether the information is accurate and trustworthy, or when was this paper published? To make sure that research is current and relevant. A critical thinking mindset is not innate, rather, it is learned and improved through practice and application. When transitioning into higher education, students exhibit varying proficiency levels in critical thinking. This supports the idea that while the development of critical thinking is heterogeneous, it is considered as a common focus across universities. Moreover, students will find opportunities to explore, experiment, and reflect on different critical thinking methods to apply or make adjustments into their own studies. Furthermore, the Australian curriculum promotes that using critical thinking strategies can help increase students' motivation and management of their learning. Therefore, it is encouraged that students actively practice thinking strategies to enhance their academic success. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in 2022, a student's critical thinking flourishes in instruction that requires deep engagement with content. Two instructional thinking methods students are encouraged to experiment with are Bloom's taxonomy of intellectual behavior and Peavy's strategic questioning.
University students can build their critical thinking is by using Bloom's taxonomy of intellectual behavior. Bloom's taxonomy is a strategy that is often used to encourage and enable students to think critically and deeper. This particular strategy breaks thinking into 3 different levels, starting from remembering and understanding and moving up to analyzing, evaluating, and creating. The idea is that students become stronger thinkers by working through these levels, not just staying at the bottom. For example, a student might start by remembering key facts from a lecture, but they can push further by analysing the ideas, comparing viewpoints, and evaluating which argument is stronger. At the highest level, they might create their own interpretation or new idea based on what they've learned. Using Bloom's taxonomy as a guide helps students go beyond surface level learning and ultimately allow students to think critically.
One effective way to strengthen critical thinking is by using Peavy strategic questioning method developed by Fran Peavy. This approach encourages students to move past surface level responses and instead of that ask purposeful and reflective questions that promote deeper thinking. Strategic questioning challenges learners to test their own beliefs, assumptions, and experiences, making it a main tool for developing critical thinking. As the OECD states, strategic questioning enables learners to develop the skill of asking the sorts of questions that lead to transformation. By modeling this in class discussions or other tasks such as written tasks, students learn to think critically and to not just absorb all the information. Using questions like what evidence supports this idea or are there other viewpoints puts a more analytical and open-minded approach to learning for all students. Over time, this habit improves their writing, research, and can even improve their decision-making skills, both in university and in all of their everyday life.